2 weeks ago, the Prime Minister suggested to us when he amended our national anthem, "Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free." Is this true? Are we one and are we free? Either we aren't, and he's a liar that needs to be fact-checked, or we are one and free, and it's something that we need to hold on to. As a man of faith, I'm going to declare it now, that we in Toowoomba, we are one because we care about each other, we include each other, and we value every voice. And that's exactly why we're gathering here now, for voices to be welcomed. Your voice is a gateway to both my and your freedom. Shut that gate and freedom is lost like a weekend trip cut off by Border Control Police. But not only are we in Harristown and Darling Heights, Drayton, Newtown, and all of Toowoomba one, but we are also free. Even during a pandemic and a state of emergency, we remain free. So in the name of clinging to our roots of freedom, let's be clear about exactly what freedom means. Freedom is profound and multifaceted, but here across cities and suburbs in Australia, we have known this much to be true. It means that we are free at any given moment to stand by our family, care for our neighbour, and defend our common core values. And when I say family, neighbour, and common values, I don't just mean my wife and kids. It's all those who have stayed true to us and been by our side through thick and thin. My neighbours are all these quality folks who share a smile, let me pat their dog, or wave and say hi when I walk with my kids down the street to Smithfield Park. My neighbours are beautiful souls who do a letterbox drop for the Christmas lunch street party, which I was late for, but I'm glad I made it in the end because there was still some leftover rumbles. And as for our common values, whether you are left wing, right wing, or centre, whether you cheer for the Blues or the Maroons, you're an atheist or religious, you're a fifth generation Aussie or a refugee just off a boat, we can all agree on a couple of true blue truths. Number one, that when push comes to shove, Aussies will stand shoulder to shoulder to confront a common enemy. And number two, liberty and freedom come at a cost, and that sacrifices have been made and must be made to retain our precious Aussie way of life, our land of sweeping plains, and the freedom to enjoy it. That is worth shouting from the rooftops. The values that unite us are stronger than those that separate us. And as a result, there is a pathway forward through COVID, which leads to a new day of freedom, prosperity, and a thriving community. Our leaders can take us along that pathway. They can, and they will, with our help. But who are our leaders? Are our politicians our leaders? By title, they appear to be. But I have a question for you. Before COVID-19, would you say you trusted your elected politicians? Would you say that they had earned your confidence as outstanding stewards who rightly deserve their pay rise? As a litmus test, I think that anyone who matches that description in your world is a leader, an important leader at this time. Listen to those who have earned your trust. Get them to speak. Here in my hand, I have a list of all the politicians in Toowoomba and Queensland. If any of them consider themselves a leader for this community, they need to speak up right now, during this state of emergency, and prove their integrity, their investment in our needs, and their capacity to lead. I, for one, would love to hear Mayor Paul Antonio's voice his vision for a post-COVID world and evaluate the role of the current disruptions. Does he see a post-COVID Toowoomba which outshines the prosperity of yesteryear? Is it a new normal and a greatly reset Toowoomba? I also want to hear David Janetsky's vision for what freedom looks like when we're dining at Milk and Honey, the Baker's Duck, Urban Grounds, and the Southern Hotel in 2021 and beyond. Does he want us to be tracked at every turn, requiring an ID? to order a coffee or a beer. If any politician wants to be looked up to, they need to be visible. Silently taking a paycheck as the COVID-19 turmoil unfolds just doesn't cut it. They need to be upfront so we can gauge whose tune they're marching to, who is informing, inspiring, and motivating them. Who are they in bed with on the one hand, and who are they intimidated by on the other? And crucially, are they up to the task of taking responsibility, of balancing the full scope of informed opinion and making tough choices for the benefit of the community? The harsh truth is that sometimes you need to reject an expert's opinion in order to do what's right. That takes principle, courage, and vision. Politicians, talk to us about your vision. Show us your courage. Furthermore, there's a telltale sign of a true leader. He or she inspires devotees of the genuine, loyal kind. They're not sheep, but locked-in soldiers who are willing allies. They're there by choice. Choice. That's the word, the crucial word in the COVID-19 world. What are our leaders doing to our innate, inalienable, dignifying capacity to choose? I'm looking at Scott Morrison, Dan Andrews, Anastasia Palaszczuk. Now, I genuinely don't mind if you're a supporter of these politicians, but are you a supporter by choice? That's my question. Imagine that you no longer had the choice to vote for your beloved leader, to support their actions, or to challenge the actions of the opposition. That would definitively signal the end of your freedom, right? So for now, we're all standing here under the assumption that we are here by choice. So it's a decisive point. Bit by bit though, this liberty has been eroding. In Queensland, it started with the declaration of emergency on the 29th of January 2020. And this has been continually extended with ongoing and arbitrary restrictions on mass gatherings. So, footy at Suncorp Stadium, yeah. Shopping, yep. Large weddings, no. Flights for elite figures, yes. Border exemptions on compassionate grounds, no. Small businesses open and financially supported, no. Close contact in public transport, yes, but not in churches. Masks at home with family, no. Alone in the car, yes. So before all these hypocritical restrictions, I can imagine that you freely chose to back that MP of yours. But now, you're being dictated to under threat of punishment. So are you still a willing ally, or rather now a goat being herded with a large stick? We are not goats, or sheep for that matter, and as intelligent, rational citizens, this is what we the people would expect. Open, transparent, consistent government, which efficiently takes on new information as it presents itself, especially during an emergency. Instead, in my opinion, the goalposts have continually shifted in line with double standards. So the confidence of Queenslanders has been shaken like an earthquake. There is a rupture of trust, and there is a need for a good faith relationship to be re-established, because we cannot be expected to follow the dictates of leaders who do not seem to be respecting our freedom of choice. That same volition which granted them their positions of power to start with. The politicians are there to serve us and our freedom. That's their privilege, not to be taken for granted. So, here's a roadmap back to good faith with our leaders. We must confront them and demand they give us their vision for our future. A worthwhile vision will account for every important consideration. So here's my top 6 questions for right now. Number 1, how petty should our border closure policy be moving forward in the next decade? Number 2, do you think a liberated society should make commerce and travel dependent on vaccines? Number 3, is a Great Reset a good idea? Number 4, is your vision of the ideal Aussie life one where we are required to wear masks while shopping? Number 5, considering all the expert advice from across the world, what are the pros and cons of lockdowns, restricting parks and beaches and imposing masks? On balance, do these measures encourage mental and physical health? Number 6. What do you make of the coronavirus treatments, such as ivectomine, which have not been publicised by the PM and made available across Australia? Worthwhile leaders will give you their vision for the future, but not only that, they will fight for it. Therefore, engagement from our leaders is a crucial step right now. Engagement with our leaders is a crucial step right now. Engagement is that gladiator's challenge for them to rise to or shrink from. Engagement will prompt them to speak up, share their knowledge, beliefs, and visions. And we will see if they lead by example, telling you to choose for yourself, according to your conscience. Indeed, no democratic leader will rely on coercion as a modus operandi. It is through such honest and heartfelt engagement that we will rise as citizens, united, to show that we expect democracy to be upheld. It will be asserting that democracy, that is, people working together for the purpose of care, support, education, mobilization, and political influence, ought to be the foundation of our emergency planning, not removed in response to a crisis. The truth is that a pandemic is not a pretext for tyranny. Conversely, it is right then that democracy needs to be summoned and relied upon more than ever. Hence, democratic engagement is our pathway back to trust with our leaders. Our questions and the inconsistencies we are perceiving must be grappled with vigorously, and our leaders must be challenged to base their recovery plans on fundamental human rights, such as bodily autonomy, as well as these two little beauties, privacy and freedom of gathering, which I'll touch on now before concluding. We simply must keep gathering together. There is an immense liberty in a gathering of people for a common purpose. There, technology can be removed. There, privacy can be assured. There, real, open, honest, and vulnerable connection can take place. It's the book clubs, the sports teams, the churches. At these places, we connect and relax into our human best. Even pubs and cafes. We can come and go without having to identify ourselves and feel like we have a collar on. However, online, in Zoom meetings, via email, video chats, social media, these are never completely private or confidential. They can all be accessed and recorded by the powers that be. Online, we are always under surveillance, and it's not right, it's not human. And 24-hour, unceasing privacy violation is something none of us have signed up for. Democracy needs people to be able to meet in person. Let's not give these up lightly. I, for one, don't intend to. Which is why I'm going to push the envelope here to nudge us in the right direction. I'm going to say this, and it challenges a medical notion which has become trendy in recent years. In order to retain our ability to gather with like-minded folks and to access services anonymously, we have to draw a line. Redraw a line which was firmly in the sand of Aussie society until very recently. That line is this: a healthy person is not a threat. An asymptomatic person is not something to fear. We cannot allow to spread this idea that everyone is a constant threat. If someone gets sick via an asymptomatic person, we have a name for that. And it's as old as the hills and as human as a green ant bite on the arse. We call it good old-fashioned bad luck. It's proper bad luck. It's not like having a coal mine built next door and train carts polluting your neighbourhood with uncovered loads. That is government and elites doing business. It's not like pollution in waterways and impure town water coming through our faucets. These all have degenerative health effects stemming from selective protocols. These aren't bad luck. They're made by choice. On the other hand, the minuscule chance of catching a sickness from a healthy person, that's just bad luck. The reality is that we are all in this together, power brokers and broke citizens alike. And no government policy is capable of legislating away bad luck. We have to live with it. But we don't have to live with the destruction of our social fabric via seeds of cynicism, distrust, and fear. A healthy person is not a threat. We need to be hugging healthy people, encouraging healthy socialization, and leaning on a common sense and common decency, which finds repulsive the notion that you're likely to contract a disease from a healthy person. I just hope we can all catch this vision. Healthy people are welcome, just as they are, starting from birth, right through to adulthood. My prayer is that we can all take to our leaders, politicians and non-politician leaders alike, a resolve to base our future civic discourse on this ethic and truth. To conclude, I want to elevate another core principle of our beloved Aussie way of life: empathy. Our political leaders need our empathy because the weight on their shoulders is immense, and the leaders have democratically earned their right to shoulder the load with our good faith cooperation wherever possible. Of course, in due course, should it appear that the government leaders are no longer operating in good faith, are dishonest, or have premeditated deception upon the public, these are important to be called out. But in the thick of an emergency, goodwill and empathy are a crucial starting point for each citizen's response. From there, as a good society with great systems and a democratic soul, we ought to scrutinize each action and policy, then hold our leaders to account for their words, actions, and visions. In short, we must be clear-minded about the magnitude of the challenge facing our leaders, but then have the courage to engage deeply over time as the nature of the emergency and the government's role become clearer. This is a time-honored method for keeping leaders in check and keeping citizens free. So, in parting, let me say this. Here's to our unity. Here's to our freedom. And here's to inspiring visions for Toowoomba.